All right, we are live. Ronnie, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Everything Virtual. We are here with some more fun, we'll call it news analysis. I don't know. What is this that we're doing? News reaction?
Sure. Yeah.
We're just,
Reaction slash just
we're
talking
just, we're
about
just
whatever
chatting
comes to
VR.
mind.
This,
Yeah.
this, like, just going way back to when we started, like, what, 5 years ago almost? Like,
Yeah.
it's just us nerding out about VR is all it is. So,
100%.
we got a couple of topics here that I think are actually bigger news, even though there's not much news, there's not much substance.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really big implications I think that are coming from this. So we got Survios, we got Apple. I think let's start with the Survios one,
Sure.
which was, and I want to make sure that I get this right. The person at Survios, who it was. Oh gosh, I should have had this ready.
Oh, you're good.
I had his name right here. Okay. The CPO, TQ Jefferson at Survios, said that they are putting their hopes on PSVR 2 and what PSVR 2 is going to bring to the platform. Now, what we also know is that I believe PlayStation or Sony has mentioned that they are not going to be bringing in or releasing anything for VR in 2021. So this is very far out, and I I think this hits us a little bit more just because of the uh, almost like the relationship we've developed with Survios and the amazing team that they have there over the last couple of years.
Yep.
And so even from one of our earliest episodes with Nathan Burba, who's the head of Survios, like getting an insight into what they're looking at is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they are now looking at PlayStation, at Sony, and what's coming with PSVR 2 as maybe the quote unquote, and I'm sorry, I'm putting words in their mouth, but like the future of VR, right? Like that's what they're putting their hopes into.
Mm-hmm.
That's big news. Now, we already knew that PlayStation and Sony were huge just because of the reach of the Sony platform or the PlayStation platform.
Mm-hmm.
But this is big. I mean, we're talking here about Oculus kind of taking a dominant market share.
Yeah.
You know that Valve and the Index are a high premium, or the kind of that premium level. HTC, we've yet to see what they can do to continue penetrating the market after getting that early market lead, and Apple, which we'll talk about later. But with PSVR, what are your thoughts here? Because PSVR is one that, in full disclosure, I would say you and I don't have as much experience with in regards to the other platforms, but we have heard good things about PSVR in the sense that it's easy to dive into, and if you it's also one of the most cost efficient. At least it was one of the most cost efficient at the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you compare it to the Oculus Quest, there's probably a more
it's more more expensive than that. I mean, we don't know what it's going to cost, like when they release the second version.
But what were your initial thoughts to it?
Yeah, so my initial thoughts, I mean, this kind of makes some sense. It tells me that Survios wants to continue to develop kind of, AAA or like, high tier VR experiences and games. And I mean, as we know, like right now, Facebook and Oculus, they're all primarily focused on the all-in-ones.
Mm-hmm.
And really the PC side of their business is kind of, it's either stagnating or, they're definitely putting all the emphasis on the Quest.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the Quest, I think, is a really great standalone experience, but it is still a standalone experience. It's still like, no matter what you do, at least for the foreseeable future, whatever, any hardware that you're able to fit inside the headset, limited to battery life of a small device on your head, that sort of thing is going to have some limitations. And I think Survios is kind of one of those companies that kind of pushes the boundaries a little bit in terms of, tech specs, and like they try to, most of their games look really nice, play, like they're higher quality titles.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it just seems like, I mean, if you're to look at the space, I mean, really the heavy hitters are PlayStation, Oculus, which is now primarily the Quest.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of have this kind of nebulous, like PC VR space, which occupies like random headsets like the Valve Index or Pimax, like all these different, random headsets that are kind of smaller market share.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have people connecting with the Quest and all that sort of thing. And so this just, to me, says that Survios wants to continue to make kind of the PC VR type experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And the place where they're going to have the biggest user base potentially in the future for those type of games, they're anticipating is going to be on PlayStation. So, I mean, I don't think this is bad. I mean, if anything, I just hope that this means that games that are being developed for the PlayStation VR would also be coming to PC for people that still have those headsets. But who knows? Like, there could be a future where, PC VR isn't as popular on the PC, but it kind of, the PlayStation kind of picks up to get like we have all these different console like experiences with VR. Who knows? But yeah, I think that's kind of my thoughts on that, is that this just says that Survios is acknowledging the limitations of all-in-one headsets. So they want to still have, outside hardware powering their VR games.
Yeah.
And the PlayStation is like the most mass market version of that, because PC VR itself is just a smaller niche. That's my take on it anyways.
I mean, I agree with you on that. The first thing that came to mind for me was the reach, right? And not, I when I say this in the sense that like it's not a bad thing, but from a financial standpoint, it makes complete sense to me, right? You're going to have the largest user base there. We saw the games that were, I think it was Resident Evil, when Resident Evil came out for VR. Like, I mean, that the sales for that shot through the roof. So like, there is an existing base there that I would say is at a, how do I put it? They're very accessible. Mm-hmm. Right. And so if you can create those titles, and we know that Survios has the capability to deliver really fantastic titles and experiences, I think that it makes the most sense for them to go there. To me, it's just interesting that they announced that, or kind of made that their public position.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They were such an instrumental part of the first wave, or like the first generation headsets, right? With the Vive and the Rift. And so there is this element of like, okay, well, the tide is shifting in a sense. Like we saw what happened with first gen headsets, and I'm going to include the first PSVR headset as part of that 1 or maybe 1.5. And with that, there's this idea that, okay, well, the largest user base is here. It makes the most sense to go there. Fidelity, graphics, they don't need to be 100, and 10%. They don't need to be the best of the best in order for people to have phenomenal experiences in VR. And let's be honest, right? Like our VR journeys, like from when the Vive and the Rift initially launched, coming up on 5 years now, I mean, VR is still so niche, right? That's how you say it. Niche. So VR is still so, it just hasn't reached the masses yet. And we've talked about this previously, but the idea being that, okay, well, PS5 is next gen console. It's going to be around for a while. PSVR and PSVR 2 will probably build upon that.
Yeah. And I think the PS5 also will have a better shot at doing VR real justice.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I think it has a much more capable CPU. I would assume, from what it sounds like, Sony's kind of working the VR stuff from the ground up. So like, whereas before with the initial PlayStation VR, they were kind of hodgepodging some of the PlayStation camera and Move controllers and stuff into a VR solution. That stuff had been kind of from the more of like the Xbox Kinect, like original Wii days of like motion controls and so like they were kind of taking some older tech and combining it with this new thing called a VR headset and kind of making something that could work. But I think whatever is going to become the next version of PlayStation VR, I think could be really good. And so, not that the first one wasn't good enough, because I think it was for a lot of people, but I think that the second version of it could be really a lot better. And on top of what you said, like, there's such a big user base there that this is really a good opportunity. And I think just in general, it's nice to hear company, like, we don't really know 100% what Sony's plans are for the PlayStation VR. And so to hear Survios is a fairly large company, assuming it's still, similar size to when we were in touch with those folks in California. They have a lot riding on this industry and how VR does.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to kind of be geared and focused on delivering content for PlayStation VR already tells me that hopefully, there's good things to come on that side.
Yeah. Well, a part of me also looks at this and says, okay, they have a very strong foothold with the VR landscape outside of PSVR as it is, right? Like, their games did well on Vive, Index, and Rift, and we know that there's a slew of titles that they are working on or have released have released recently that will continue to be kind of tent poles for VR experiences outside of PSVR. So it's almost like, okay, well, the company now sees an opportunity to expand. And this is it's interesting because, like, when you talk about an industry like VR or VR development, it's not like there's of course there's risks, but it's not like you can these are digital assets that they're putting out. So it's almost like, okay, well, there's like an area to expand now. It's not like necessarily a risk of like spreading ourselves too thin. We have the development, we have the intellectual property already, and sometimes that's just porting it over. Sometimes that's taking an idea that we had to release for Oculus Quest or Quest 2 that's coming out next year, but now we have to just kind of shift that over to PSVR. So to me, like, it just kind of opens the market for them. Opens the opportunity for them.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing. So, we want to see studios like Survios succeed. I think we want to see studios putting together awesome titles and then being rewarded for it with the kind of, I don't know, just financial, but also just critical acclaim from their games. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, it's cool to see them kind of continuing to build out and expand upon that.
No, I totally agree.
Cool. Okay, so let's switch gears then. I think this is a good segue point for us to talk Apple VR, which again is we talked about last episode. Now the big news is there is a rumor, and I have to say that this is it's still a rumor. There's nothing that's been substantiated on it, but The Verge had an article, and I think there were several other articles that might have all just been feeding off of one another. But
the
rumor is that the VR headset, the Apple VR headset, which could potentially come out next year, could cost $3,000.
Yeah.
Feature 8K displays and over a dozen cameras. But if I'm being honest, 3,000 is a lot higher than I was expecting.
So I didn't really have like expectations one way or another. I did, like, in the initial rumors, I feel like it was being downplayed a little bit, but there was a lot of language out there that was suggesting that, oh, this is going to be kind of a, like, not a flagship, but kind of like a statement type piece that, like, oh, Apple's only expecting to sell like one per every Apple store or something crazy like that. Like, it didn't sound like there were a lot of caveats to Apple's releasing a VR/AR headset, but this isn't like Apple's move to mass market VR. This is more like Apple, like, kind of, sticking the flag in the ground and saying, like, this is our first steps in this area. Like, we have intentions of releasing a more mass market product in the future. So I don't know. Like, so the $3,000 mark to me does sound high, but it still sounds low enough to where I feel like if there's a company, like, let's be real, like $3,000 is a lot for a VR headset, but like, compared to, let's just say, Apple selling something for $3,000 is kind of like Valve releasing the Index for $1,000. Like I think there are some people out there that are willing to pay more because they know it's from Apple. Not to say
Yeah.
that they're going to pay $3,000, but I'm just saying like all products that come from Apple, they take like normal pricing and then just like stretch it just a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean they deliver premium products, right? And
Sure.
so I like
No,
I totally get that, and I understand. And the thing is, what's funny is when you say like when you compare it to the Valve Index, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's right. Like if there's a headset out there that's $1,000 and Apple's going to deliver something that they believe is premium and probably is to a certain degree
and several
more
years
premium.
later too. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
yeah, several years later. So that's the part that I guess that gets me is I just don't. Here's the thing. We were talking last week about how if and when Apple releases something VR related, it's got to be awesome, right? Like it's got to be so good because of the
yeah.
fact that they came late to the party. And this is what they do. That like there's nothing wrong with that because this strategy has worked for them, right? Like MP3 players, they came out with iPod later, like iPhone. That was I guess that was the first kind of thing, but tablets, watches, like wearables, they come out later, but they deliver, right? And everyone's got to have it.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is with VR, I think that's especially the case because it's they're 5-6 years late. Not and I shouldn't say late, but 5 years, 6 years by next year post when this really started picking up. And so if they deliver something, it's got to be phenomenal. And my goodness, if it's $3,000, it's got to be so good, right?
And it has to be able to do something. Like my only get like the fact that the rumors are pointing to 12 cameras
Mhm.
tells me they're spending a decent amount of money on making sure AR is really good in this thing, because that's what the
Yeah.
cameras would be doing. And I mean, 8K doesn't really like super excite me. Not because it's not, I'm sure it's going to look amazing, but there's other headsets like Vario. They make really like, super high resolution, like eye resolution headsets for like more enterprise
Mhm.
level. Like, and they're similar in price. They're a few $1,000s, but those are, oh, this is super, super clear. This is for like, factory like R&D purposes,
Yeah.
like designing cars, that sort of thing. Like they're specifically creating headsets for like, experimental like medical simulations, that sort of thing. Like you're talking like the cost is kind of irrelevant for those
Yeah.
factors. Like they just want the best, right? So like
True, true.
there's already headsets out there that are super high resolution. What I'm going to pose the same kind of challenge / question about this Apple headset that I posed the last time we talked about this is
Mhm.
like regardless of the price, I really want to know like what is it about Apple's approach to VR that's going to be different,
Yeah.
and is that difference something that they're going to be able to demonstrate from the beginning that they're onto something that no one else has been onto yet? Like there's special things about how Oculus has treated VR that still to this day I'm like, oh, like they kind of got some of those initial problems in a way that no one else was like quite like when I first tried the Quest and I saw how it did like inside out tracking and how it
Mhm.
made it so easy to draw your borders and how you could see the room. You could have the headset on while you were doing all that stuff. All that stuff was really, really well done, right? I hadn't
Yep.
seen it done like that, stepping outside of your boundaries and all of a sudden the cameras turn on and you can see around. Like when I hear this headset having super high quality displays, having 12 cameras and all that, my thoughts are AR, and my thoughts are this is especially considering that Apple sees this as kind of the gap between the bridge gap or whatever between this and what's eventually going to be a more mass market product.
Mhm.
I want to know what they think that this is going to do for people, and I want to see some kind of a suggestion of what's to come with Apple. If it's groundbreaking and it's something that I like, you just can't experience else, like then that it's going to start like as an enthusiast, you're going to start thinking, man, like, is this something I want to try? Is this not? It also depends on how far the next product is. Like $3,000 is a ton to spend on something that's going to be like, a glorified paperweight in a year or two from now. If they're saying that legitimately there's going to be some device in like 2 years that, you know what I mean? So
Yep.
maybe so that kind of makes me like understand what they meant by, oh, we're only going to sell like a very small number of these.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just to those crazy people that are going to try it or it be given to them, and they're going to write articles and post videos and
Mm-hmm.
kind of give a sneak peek to the world on what's to come from this technology that gets them really excited. Maybe that's what they're trying to do with this. I don't know, but because I can't $3,000 unless they're going to just give these things away to developers. I also don't think like a $3,000 headset that doesn't have an ecosystem is something that the developer community is like going to jump. Like we know a lot of these developers, like it's not like they have cash to burn on new devices, right? So
Yeah.
so that can't be why they're doing it, right? Like unless they have some big plan for it, like I said, some kind of weird distribution, plan or something where they're going to be feeding these. So it doesn't seem like it's to create development hype. So maybe it's to get people just believing in Apple's ability to bring something revolutionary to the market like this for like a future product. I don't know. Like until we see it and hear and see their like marketing position for it. I mean, the only thing I was kind of thinking when I was preparing for this was, if they do a good enough job, this is kind of like a big marketing exercise for VR in general.
Mm-hmm.
People are already like the Quest 2. I've got a lot of people talking about VR. I definitely see more and more people that I don't know having an interest in VR kind of, be willing to try an Oculus Quest or like I just randomly here and there, I run into people that are picking up Quest 2s. And they're not people that are like hardcore VR users, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Oculus and Facebook must be doing something to get this into people's heads that like VR is a thing that I want to try.
Yeah.
I think when Apple officially releases a VR product, that's going to say something about the technology to people out there.
Oh yeah, if Apple's doing it, then
Like
it's here
I would
or coming.
imagine, I would imagine more Quests or whatever is out at the time are going to sell as a
Mm-hmm.
result of Apple getting into the space, right? Same
Yeah.
thing with like it. That's why I thought this is a fascinating topic, like talking about PlayStation, the next PlayStation VR, like ahead of this.
Mm-hmm.
Is I am really excited. Like it is a little bit, I wouldn't say just boring, but it's a little bit concerning that, most of the VR talk right now is all Quest related, all Oculus. Like it seems like VR has become synonymous with Oculus and
Yeah.
Facebook, which I mean, all props to them. Like we've talked them up a lot on past shows. It's not like they haven't done a good job of, like for what it's worth. I mean, if you like VR, like Oculus and Facebook have poured a lot of money into this
Mm-hmm.
and
I
have,
mean, the marketing commercials that they've done look fantastic too, right? Like they make
yeah.
it look phenomenal.
So yeah, but at the same time, I mean, no one like it's never healthy to just have one
Mm-hmm.
player in a market.
Of course. Yeah.
And so seeing Sony still invested, and then if Apple really like throws their hat into the ring, I think that will be very good for VR as a whole. Even if
Mm-hmm.
it ends up being like a crazy $3,000 device, for Apple to actually release a
Yeah.
VR product and show that they're committed to AR going forward, I think it just kind of gives everybody in this space a little bit of reassurance that like, oh, this isn't going to stay a niche forever,
Yeah.
right?
Agreed.
So, and that's everyone's hope and dream, but
Mm.
yeah, seeing more players actually enter the ring is something that we need to happen.
Gotcha. Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm glad you looped in the PSVR portion of it, because I think that's definitely an important point. The only thing that I would say, and we can kind of wrap up around this, is I think about what Apple has done from a release or launch strategy before, right? So smartphones, or MP3 players were here. They were about, but the iPod came in and it kind of revolutionized because it worked well. Same thing with the iPhone, right? Like there were certain versions of smartphones out there, but the iPhone just worked. You had the same thing with tablets. You had the same thing with wearables, right? With the Apple Watch. Like I never wore a watch before, but I didn't buy an Apple Watch as soon as they came out, but I was intrigued at the idea, and the marketing over the several years until I ended up buying one was okay. Like, there's some value to this.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, after getting an iPhone, after getting an Apple Watch, I can't live without it, right? And I know I'm exaggerating, but
Yeah.
it enhanced certain aspects of my life so much that going back to something that was an inferior product
Yep.
was like, nah, I'll pay the $1,000 per phone. I wasn't paying $1,000 per phone before the
Exactly.
iPhone. I wasn't paying, several $100s for a watch before. Like, so the thing is, there's a certain part of me that looks at this and says, maybe we're looking at, or at least me, maybe I'm looking at it in the wrong way. And the AR stuff that you bring into this is very important, because it's like, we're looking at this with a frame of mind of just like what's out right now, right? Like what is the VR tech that's out here? Yet they could be working on something that is so well integrated with both VR and AR, that it is the future or the launching pad for where they're trying to go.
Yeah.
And so if they do deliver on that product and it is $3,000, then I guess the type of consumer that I am is like, well, it's different because we're in the VR space, but normally I would look at that and be like, $3,000. I don't think so. But I'm gonna be tuning into those Apple developer conferences. I'm gonna be seeing them around, and it'll just be like, okay, well, maybe Apple VR2 or VR3, like, sign me up, take my paycheck.
If it does something that like you're just like, it's mind blowing and something new that I totally agree. I don't think Apple would be getting into this space to get into gaming, right?
Yeah.
There are so many like other more simple ways, like for them to, they never, in recent years, they didn't release like an Apple console or anything like that. There was always this, like, up until recently, they didn't even have like a gaming service or anything like that. Like, even though video games were a part of the Apple, iPhone, iPad ecosystem, it's just like one side project of theirs. And they're more about, creating products that people use on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And so, you would have to think that whatever they're releasing in the VR AR space has that in mind, rather than just like providing someone with just like one form of entertainment. So
agreed.
Yeah, so that's what
that's a good thing to bring up.
So that's what I'm super like interested to see, what this product is going to reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to see, like, what does Apple think VR and AR is going to bring us in the future.
Yeah.
And you're totally right. Like, maybe the first version of it's $3,000, but it's so mind blowing that when version 2 comes out at $2,000, like, you're clamoring to get it, because like it's replacing your phone. It's replacing like let's just say, supposedly that's internally what some of them were thinking this could eventually turn into, right? It's like some form of AR glasses is going to be the iPhone replacement.
Yep. No, that's a great point.
Yeah, and people spend like $1,500 on Apple phones like every year and a half.
No, that's true. And to your point, like, I was just like, what just popped into my head was this idea of like, if I have an Apple headset, and we're trying to think of like use cases for it that are outside of the box of what gaming is, right? But it's got to be something so great and also so easy to use that when I have the Apple headset here and my iPhone on my other hand, like, when I want to make a FaceTime call to my parents, I'm going to want to put the headset on. And I'm going to want to do it because it's easy and it enhances the experience. You know what I mean? Like,
and imagine, honestly, like, Apple's done like more gimmicky stuff than like integrating VR into chats and stuff with past phones. Like, I remember when the initial like Animojis or whatever came out on like the iPhone 10 or whatever. Like I remember seeing that the first time and being like, oh, like whoever's talking to me with that form of Animoji, that means they have the new iPhone. Like that's pretty cool. Like I'm kind of foreseeing like if you have a headset and you talk to like you're going to be able to interact with people that don't have headsets. And it's going to kind of a little bit in the back of your head, like make you wish like you had a headset too. Right. like I bet you there's going to be some kind of interplay between like other Apple devices and this headset. It's not just going to be like headset to headset conversations, right?
It's going to make you feel left out when you're in like a group call and you can see like the people who have the headset.
Yeah. Everybody else is having fun on the call and you're like this stationary flat, like lame loser. Like,
it's like, oh man, you're so 2000 and late. Cool, man. Well, we could probably speculate all day long, and I'm sure this is not the end of it. So we'll wait for more information on this, but just wanted to chat about the price rumors. And again, I'll stress the fact that these are just rumors, but we'll see where things kind of go from there. You got any other thoughts to close?
No, that's it.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up here. Thanks so much for listening. If you have any questions, comments, we need to push this more. So definitely say hello. If you're watching this on YouTube, say hello in the comment section below. If you have a question or if there's a topic that we have missed, please let us know. We'd love to get into the weeds with you on all of that. And then on Twitter as well, hit us up. Let us know what's up. And I'm saying up a lot, so I'll stop. All right, man. I'll catch you later.
All right. See ya.